All right, so I'll be going over the VCT Game Changers drama in 2025 with there being a lot of it. But the first thing we have to kind of discuss is what is VCT Game Changers, which is kind of and I quote, a new program, which was new program in 2021, that will supplement the competitive season by creating new opportunities and exposure for women and other marginalized genders within Valorant esports. And there was a lot of drama that happened this most recent year of 2025, and that's kind of what we'll be going over. So the first thing is new patch drama. So back right before a new patch dropped, it was right before Game Changers Championship, and it kind of changed the entire landscape of the game with all abilities being changed, and it kind of led to a lot of drama online. With Leo being online, being the full spokesperson for Valorant esports, and he talks about how he wants to share context and how the timing isn't ideal, and that we know that in a perfect world we'd avoid big gameplay changes right before a global event, but the reality is that this is part of the year. It's our best window to make meaningful updates to Valorant. And so he kind of keeps going and talking about how this is difficult and that hasn't been a problem in the past, but it's just different this year. He then talks about people online and how they've been mentioning holding the patch until game changers or keeping it on a previous version, and how this will be really difficult to do. And that it makes it where the majority of scrim partners would be on the live patch, making it hard for game changers to find actual good scrims. And that the game changer teams will have 2.5 to 5 weeks on the patch for competition. And it talks about how there are the trade offs and how game changers teams and players are adapting. And people did not like this. So one person says, so basically, you're saying a big F you to game changers and remaking the game before their biggest tournament, LMFAO. Another person said, you could have just said you don't care, Leo. Seriously, why even feel the need to explain anything to people? I don't get why you keep pretending like you care about game changers. You never have, and I don't get why you're suddenly scared of the backlash now. But other people were trying to be considerate and being like, "Hey, Leo, thank you for the context," and then it's just asking some questions about how the patch would be handled. Another user said, "You always say you take Game Changer seriously. They continue to obliterate what's left of it. This continues to deter marginalized genders from competing. I competed in women's scene for almost 10 years, and Val has done a pretty awful job of promoting any scene but the pro scene." And then another person said, "All that yapping to say we made the changes because of VCT pros, but we're going to dump it on Game Changer players with little time to practice for it." Other people were saying that it was just essentially another term for Q&A or practice. Someone else said, "It's all right. Game Changers is a joke anyway." And that kind of leads us to our next thing, which is a Game Changers player ban. Um, so a player known as Majimiya kind of just stated on Twitter after a loss that we lost 0-2 and were eliminated from the tournament. It wasn't easy to play against men. There's nothing to do. And then someone responded with, "Isn't this conversation over yet?" And someone says it has increased. In fact, that there is at least one man on every team, and some have two or three. And then they said, "I'm going to form a Game Changers team with 5 guys, and I'm going to dominate." And then the tournament said, "We have become aware of public comments posted by the player on X, formerly known as Twitter. While these comments were posted following a Game Changers match and do not directly involve our league structure, they are clearly incompatible with our values, the values we uphold. As a league dedicated to creating and maintaining safe spaces for women through initiatives such as Equal Esports Queens, we take this matter extremely seriously, and it's our responsibility to protect the integrity of these spaces and well-being of the players who trust us." So essentially, they kind of just banned her from playing in these tournaments for a year. Um, and that kind of like brought up a great question of how like people react and think about a women's only slash marginalized gender league, and kind of some mixed reactions you'll have where there will be a group of players who don't think it's fair to face men in anything as a woman, and then there will be other ones who try to be very inclusive and welcoming, and it's just like two separate sides that makes it really difficult. In the next chapter and the last chapter will be the G2 Amy drama. This one was a doozy. So, like, there was kind of a big Twitter fiasco because after G2 goes and lost 2-1 against Team Liquid Brazil, G2 Amy posted a goofy like orangutan emoji on her Twitter and essentially being like, "We go again in my BR tomorrow" with the orangutan emoji. And she ended up quote tweeting it, being like, "Hey guys, I had no idea about the context behind that emoji. I love the Brazilian community and would never intentionally disrespect you." And with MIBR SRN being like XDC tomorrow, MIBR being made in Brazil, which is another Game Changers team that they were playing again the following day because they lost their current match. And then they posted another tweet being like, "Hey everyone, I just wanted to say sorry again to all the people that have felt offended from the emoji that I put. Me and my friends have used it before as more of a chill emoji, like for example the otter. After the loss, I made the tweet really fast before going to my press conference without thinking twice about how it could be get interpreted. Nor did I know about the history and culture to Brazilian people. I know people will not believe me no matter what I say, but I'm genuinely very sorry for that, and I take full responsibility for this. As I should be more aware and careful with things that I tweet. Please don't attack my teammates or anyone else around me, as it's my own fault. All love to everyone." And then she kind of quit. She's something like, "I felt very overwhelmed with all the hate I got, and I thought that I would be better to address it this way and not add any heat to it after I deleted my socials because it got to the point where I was getting death and rape threats, and I always had a match the next day. I didn't get to the press conference because I was not only devastated after the loss, but seeing so much hate and people calling me racist when I didn't mean it in that way at all. I was super sad and emotional, and I was scared of wording something wrong, and you probably couldn't even get a proper sentence out of me." With Lisa being another player on MMBR being like, "Guys, I know that I myself engage in trash talk, but I always made it clear that this kind of thing is exclusively in game and about the game. Now, seeing more of these tweets, I know that this beef went over the limit. We don't know anyone's intentions." With some of the people in the comments, the quote tweet of G2 Amy's apology being like, "Amy, you don't need to apologize twice. It's obvious that you didn't mean it." With other people like, "You are incredibly stupid to believe she didn't mean any harm. She deserves to suffer along with that racist and horrible player." With more quote tweets being followed, and if you kind of want to read these, you can kind of pause. But essentially, they were saying that I can't believe anything that you say. You can't say that you don't know the connotation of it. You're a European. Europeans use it in soccer. Basically being like "f you," um, and some people being like, "I wish that I could believe you, but I just can't." There's a lot more in there which I can't really say. But if you're interested, you can just kind of like pause and watch that. But essentially, this is kind of like some of the drama. There's a lot more, but this is kind of all I'm going to be able to cover in this video. Um, but essentially, the whole idea of like the community's reaction and how they kind of like handled all of these situations where they got very aggressive, very, blamey, which kind of happens a lot with the Valorant community. And we saw with all of these tweets and these ideas, and it kind of made it really, difficult to see the game in any other way and see the community in any other way. Where, 5 out of the 6 tweets you saw were extremely negative and extremely, blameful and extremely aggressive. And they kind of just showcase how you know, communities can take things extremely seriously and not see the lightheartedness in some things, and also kind of just like try to associate blame to everyone no matter the situation. And I think that's kind of something that we still see in this community and see with a lot of things present day. And I think that that's kind of just like really difficult for us to handle and improve on. But essentially, yeah, that's all I got for this. So until I see y'all later.